I'm gonna turn these deaths from the game Dumb Ways to Die realistic using Photoshop. And the last time I did this, y'all seemed to like it, so this time I'm gonna take a few deaths from Dumb Ways to Die 2 and a few more from the first game. And they actually commented on the last video telling me to do more, so why don't we start off by making the scene from their profile picture realistic. I'm gonna start off by putting a background behind the character and copying the character's shape. And once I've done that, I'll copy the mouth and eye shapes and then add the eyes and a little bit of red in the mouth. Next, I'll add some shadows on the ground coming from the character, and then I'll add some fire on top of his head. I'll add some black to make his head look kind of charred, and I'm also going to put a motion blur on the fire. Next, I'll add a skin texture to the body, and finally add a camera raw filter. So this is the finished product. But next, let's move on to something with a little more blood, and by that I mean the screen that plays when you lose. So first I'll use a bunch of shapes to recreate the wall, but I'm also going to cut out this mountain and put it in the back and fade it out. Next I'm going to use the pen tool to cut around this circus tent, and once I've cut the whole thing out, I'll put it in the same spot as the original image and then change the colors. I'm going to put a metal ball on the top and then just use the generative fill tool to connect it to the tent, and then do the same with the other side. After that, I'm going to cut out this flag and put it in these little blocks and use the puppet warp tool to make the flag part a little more wavy. I'm also going to change the color of the flags to an orangish red color. I added some shadows, but now I'll recreate the silver things with the rectangle tool and use the same tool to recreate the other parts as well, and added the X. I'm going to copy that and add 2 more of them, and then add the arms and legs that are sticking out behind it, and then add a bevel and emboss to those. But now let's add some textures. So I'll add a dirty kind of texture onto the pads, or whatever these are called, and then I'll add a metal texture to these things holding it up. I'm also going to add a texture to the wall and then extend it a little bit, and then add a different texture to the other parts of the wall and the floor. I'm going to add some grass on the ground, but I don't think it will really matter because I'm going to add a bunch of little grass patches on top of it and then add some more behind it until it covers up the whole thing. But I also need to add some pom-poms, so I'll add some red pom-poms and then change the color to yellow and place them at the end of the arms. And the only thing left is the blood, so I'm going to add a blood splatter and make it more red, and then put it on the other parts at a different angle so it's not just the same thing. But that's not enough blood, so I'll add some more blood and then put it behind the pads or whatever these are, and then add some blood to the pom-poms as well. And after adding the shadows on the ground, I'm pretty much done. So this is my realistic version of the death screen in Dumb Ways to Die 2. For the next 2 designs, I'm going to go through them a little bit quicker because the ones that are coming up later in the video are just pretty cool and I want to get to those. So I'll start off with this image, which I actually just found off the internet, and that's why the quality is so bad. But to make it realistic, I added a track field texture on the ground and some grass and a sky, and then traced over the character's body. After coloring it in, I added a bevel and emboss to the legs, and then cut out this NBA headband and removed the logo, and then warped it around the character. I turned it white and then added the red stripe and a shadow below, and then I copied the mouth shape, added the tooth, and added an eyeball and an eyelid. But next I'm going to add this girl's closed eye onto the face and then fade it out, and then add a javelin going into the eye. Next I changed the colors of the javelin, and then I'm going to add some blood coming out of the eye, which is just a personal decision, I guess. But I remade the background and then added some shadows onto the ground and the body, and then I added some more blood onto the ground, and then added a skin texture onto the character. After that I used a hairbrush type of brush to add the hair, and then finally added a camera raw filter and a lens blur. And if you're enjoying the video, let's try to get to 2,000 likes and I'll make a part 3. And don't forget to subscribe to become a Jord and watch me make more designs like this. For the next design, I'm going to remake this kitchen scene. This one's kind of interesting, but I'm going to get through this one a little quicker as well because I want to get to the next one. So I started off by using rectangles to replicate the kitchen, and then added a texture to the wall and the floor, and then added some baseboards. I added a table that was at a similar angle as the original, and then copied all the characters. I added a bunch of hair on the outside of the blue guy, just because I felt like it, but then I added the football and the food and the plates. I added shadows on top of everything, and then added textures onto the characters, and also put a pie on the yellow one's head. I put some jelly on the yellow guy's head and then added the faces, and finally added the blood and water onto the ground. So this is the realistic kitchen scene. But now let's make this space scene realistic. He just kind of popped, didn't he? This might be the best way to go out, to be honest. Like, of all of the deaths. So first I'm gonna add a space background and then copy the chord with the brush tool and add a bevel and emboss. Next, I'll copy the legs, arms, and suit, as well as adding some shadows. After that, I'm gonna copy the helmet with a bowl that I found and cut out, and then reduce the opacity. I'll add a little texture to the suit and make the top part more 3D. But next, I'll add some eyeballs in the same spot as the original. After that, I'll add some blood coming from the suit and change the colors because I think it would kind of freeze. So this looks pretty good, but I'll just add a camera raw filter, and this is the final image. This next one I thought was going to be pretty fun to design, and that is this dragon scene. I'm going to start off by using the pin tool to recreate the wing and then just do the same thing with the rest of the dragon. I added an eyeball to the eye and then added a texture onto the nails and body. But now I'm gonna add a scaly texture to the darker parts of the tail and fade them together and change the color. I'm also gonna add the scales to the wings and then connect the wings to the dragon's side. I'll add some shadows onto the dragon and then put some dirt on the ground and change the color. After that, I'm gonna add some shadows onto the ground and then on the bottom of the dragon. I found a cave background and added it onto our image, so I'll change the color and fade it into the other ground image we have. But I should probably make the dragon a little bit darker to match the scene some more. And after I'm done doing that, I'll put a little stool right here and add some shadows. Next, I'll retrace the body of the pink character with the brush tool. I'll put a little paintbrush in the character's hand, and then I'll add that NBA headband again to make the headband. And after placing it on his head, I'll change the colors to match the original. Next, I'll remake the hair with a hairbrush, but now let's add some fire. So I'll add some fire coming out of the dragon's mouth and make the character's hair look a little burnt. I'll add some more fire behind the original fire and then some on the character's head. But now let's add some lighting coming from the fire onto the dragon's mouth and then onto the body. And let's also put some orange lighting onto the character as well. And I'll make the background a little darker around the edges and then adjust the color where the fire is. I made the background even darker and added some highlights onto the dragon. But let's add the mouth and eyes to the pink character before I forget, and then finally add a camera raw filter, and here is what that did. So this is my realistic version of the dragon scene. But we have one more scene that we need to make realistic, and that is this. That was kind of a lot of blood, but that's probably the only reason you watch these videos anyways. So let's start off by adding some grass at a nice angle, and then I'll cut out this bear trap with the pin tool, and once I'm done with that, I'll add it on top of the grass and cut out one of these coins. I'll make the coin more yellow and add a little shadow, but now let's work on the blood. So I'll add this puddle of blood onto the grass, but this looks pretty bad. So to make it look better, I'm gonna displace it until it looks good, and what that did is make it go around some of the grass parts. But I'm gonna make the puddle of blood a little darker in the middle because there would probably be a little bit more there, and following that I'll put some blood spatter on the bear trap as well. The first thing I was thinking when I saw this was that's a lot of blood, but then I remembered that this killed the character. He's dead. So we actually do need a lot of blood because this is dumb ways to die. I'm gonna retrace the character's arm and add the inside part before adding a skin texture, but the arm is at a weird angle, so I'm gonna try to add some shadows to make it look a little bit better without moving the arm. I'm also gonna add some red to the bottom of the bear trap where the blood might have gotten to, and finally I'll use some grass brushes to make it look like there's some grass in front of the bear trap, and this is the final image. Let me know which was your favorite in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos.